Do you feel your life is changing right now and want to turn it around in a way that you are happy with, thrive in your career and your life in general? Stay tuned for this episode of Spirit Lift. Skye, I think you're a really important person to speak to on this episode of Spirit Lift because you seem to have like a very holistic, comprehensive way of helping people, whether it be between issues of mental health, Reiki, life coach abilities. And a lot of people that I've been speaking to recently are really concerned about the direction of their life. They're really concerned about feeling stuck in the situation they're in. Maybe that has to do because of the pandemic, may have to do for other reasons, but they may want to transition to a different career, different relationship, but they're afraid of taking that first step and they feel overly anxious about doing anything. And that often leads into certain forms of depression. So what would you just, generally just start off this episode, say to those people and give them a certain type of advice to like at least get the ball moving a certain way? What would you generally say to them?
Well, I don't want to sound hokey, but I feel like I'm going to sound hokey regardless, whatever. When there's nothing left to believe in hope. Believe that tomorrow can get better, because oftentimes it does, and maybe it will. I think the main things are when we highlight and know that there is a problem, it's a blessing in disguise, because when we know there's a problem, we can take steps to fix it. And it's okay to ask for help if you need help.
Because a lot of people usually don't, right? People think people are wallowing in their mind too much. They're not, getting the proper either advice or their insight, even on an intuitive level, to make the first steps, And I think, there's so many factors that go into it, obviously, right? I mean, the way people even sleep, eat, exercise. I mean, there's so many elements that are forming our way of either doing or not doing, right? That can lead us to our actual state of being. So I'm really interested as well, Scott. Can you speak to our audience, kind of just explain to them your history a little bit and why, especially that you wanted to take the route you took in your life to become, this life coach, address mental health issues, and even include Reiki in that? How does that all come together for you and the way you help people?
So that's really rooted in my childhood. So a little bit of background on me. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Arizona. I became a counselor because my childhood was pretty turbulent. A lot of domestic violence, a lot of alcoholism in my household. I was in a car accident when I was 3, and I had to have facial reconstructive surgery twice. So from a very early age, a lot of the kids were like, "What happened to your face?" I looked different, so they threw my lunch in a lawn for years. And I knew by the time I was 12, I was going to be sitting on someone's couch doing therapy. Like, I just accepted that, like, I know this isn't normal, but I also don't know how to get out of it. And I just knew that, like, at some point in the future, like, doing my own inner work was going to be part of my life path. When I was 16, I was sexually assaulted by a family member. 3 months later, I miscarried. And that was like a horrible secret for like 15 years of my life. Nobody knew for a very long time. So like when I turned 17, 18 and started doing therapy and started doing my own inner work, it just really became like a series of events of, like one person helped me, and then I felt like I needed a transition to like go work with somebody else. And then in the mental health world, it never really felt complete for me, because I was very angry with God at that time. And I was like, why do things happen? And not even like a why me, although I did have my time doing that, but really it was more like how do I make sense of this world that I live in? Like, how do we make sense of these bad things that happen to people and animals? And how do we make sense of what's happening in the world, really is what it boiled down to. How do I make sense of what's happening in this world, both on a global level and in my life personally? And I feel like on a collective level, we're at that same point again with pandemic. I'm noticing that question coming up a lot for people. And so even though I was doing like the mental health pieces of it, because I wasn't able, and their licensure wise, they weren't able to work with me on the spiritual pieces of it. So that's what sent me to like Reiki healers and, you know, just starting to build a spiritual community. And that's where I was able to start on a personal level, bridging those gaps. And I mean, it's taken me 20 years, but I do really feel like I have a sense of peace and I can see the bigger picture and I can understand for myself why I went through those events, even though they were very painful. And even though I would never want to live them again, I do understand and see the bigger picture and how they were very serving and how they led to my evolution and how I am right now. If you like me on any level, it's those years of hard work that made me compassionate, empathetic. And a big part of why I became a therapist is that I never wanted people to hurt the way I hurt when back in my youth.
Skye, to arrive where you are now in your life and seeing and reflecting on all these things that you did experience that were quite difficult, quite heavy, and, you know, and the way you kind of got through it in a certain sense, was there someone, out of curiosity, was someone along the way that really helped you kind of guide you into these points in your life, like whether it be a counselor or the Reiki and everything else? Was there like a sort of mentor in an aspect or an accountability partner, or did you just kind of figure this out on your own?
I think to say it's one person would be a heavy burden to put on one person. So for me, I had many accountability buddies. And I mean, it was really about a commitment to myself, but at the same time, having another person or like my cat, another animal, like just to help me be accountable along the way. You know, I wanted to commit suicide for a number of years. And, you know, what helped me lean into life is that, well, who's going to feed my cat in the morning if I die? You know, I mean, that's a heavy thing to say, but it's also very much like, I need to stick around for her. So anyway, but, you know, and like having counselors, they really did help normalize what I was experiencing, because I didn't know that what I had was PTSD. And it's like when I have such a conflicted relationship with diagnosing, because on one hand, like the first time I got diagnosed, I had such relief that like my crazy wasn't crazy, like it had a name, and it was very validating for me that first time, because finally it made sense. Like what I went through was real, was valid, and like, you know, but now also with that label come tools that I can fix this. You know, like we know that for post-traumatic stress disorder, having a sense of community and having social support does lead to resiliency. So it helped me lean in and start reaching out for not only help, but also building a sense of community. Like, who in my life can I connect with, who might also be feeling lonely, that, well, you know, we can have coffee on Friday evenings so you don't have to be by yourself. You know, and it kind of helped me get out of my own stuff and like lean into like, there's more to this world than just me.
That's very important, because you realize the love expands. We all feel a certain love within inside of us, but especially when it connects and expands in other entities, you know, especially with pets too. I mean, I love our dog tremendously. So I would only, you know, my wife is my ultimate, my everything, but if it weren't for her, it would definitely be for our dog. And I would find a reason for something just because of her, which a lot of people say, you know, like cats, dogs, lizards, or whoever, like whatever, sorry, are you know, godsends in a certain way. Like they are angels in a certain way. I mean, I feel that. But, you know, what is it for you and your process and all these different parts of your life that felt like a tremendous amount of suffering, and especially at that time? When was it are there any certain examples that you can remember that after a certain thing happened and transpired and time went on, that something like came of clarity, like, okay, I have some closure or healing or understanding of moving on from this, and it doesn't own my life? Did you have certain moments like that? And could you explain to our audience what that was to have that kind of moment and for you to overcome it?
I think the main things for a very long time, it was just taking myself, going back to basics. Like, did I eat? Did I shower? Did I brush my teeth? Did I, did I sleep well? Did I exercise? Like kind of going back to those just getting my basics down was really what helped me start shifting into, it helped me shift my entire life, because I wasn't just sitting on the couch. I wasn't just hermiting at home. I was, at least taking care of myself, even if it was like taking a shower and, brushing my teeth or something simple. Like even the simple small things count in big ways, right? Gosh, I went to Sedona recently, and that for me was like the biggest closure piece for everything. Like, I think things really finally had started coming full circle for me, because like the place where I was assaulted was really my sanctuary. And, like I had plans to move there, to live there. And, so after that happened, it really turned my world upside down. And it's like, who do I trust and where do I go from here? Because this isn't like, staying in Arizona was not part of my life plan at that point in time. So I think a lot of it was just being open to seeing what was going to come next, and just, not judging anything, but also not attaching in a very, I think for a big part of it for me was just being open to what was happening in life, not judging anything that was coming next, and just being open to the experience or to the person. And it's like, well, let's just see how this goes. I don't have to be vulnerable right off the bat. Trust is earned. It goes both ways. But then also being willing to like lean into the relationship as well, like making sure that there is that give and take, that ebb and flow,
Would you, after everything you've gone through and where you are now, would you say, is there anything from those experiences that you would say, I wish this never happened? Or have you realized now in this point in your life and what you're doing, like, I don't want to say you're grateful for them, but have they become sort of the milestones in your journey of life of learning and clarity in a certain way?
Yeah. And that's so interesting that you said that, you phrased it that way, because for a very long time, like I was, like I would never wish this on anybody. And, but a few months ago, I finally just had like that peace in my heart of like, I mean, who would be grateful for felony level assault? But I am. And I know that sounds crazy, because why would you do that? But I see the big picture, and it's like, okay, like I would never be as empathetic. I would never be as compassionate. I wouldn't be who I am now had I not had that hard experience. So I'm not going to sit here and I would never say that to somebody who was recently assaulted, ever, ever, ever. I mean, I was not in a place where I could hear that. I was not in a place where I could accept that. Even, a year ago, but back in November of 2020, I started feeling that shift in myself, and I was like, oh God, I'm grateful for this. What? And I judged it pretty hard. But then the more I sat with it and was like, no, really, like I see the big picture and how this served me. Like I would not have become a counselor if I hadn't had that experience and the motivation to do my own therapy. I wouldn't have become a counselor if I hadn't had some really amazing therapists myself. And a big part of why I wanted to start transitioning into life coaching was that, in therapy, we diagnose and we do a lot of symptom management, and there is a lot of value to that. But at the same time, there are times where people need help and support, and they don't need a diagnosis. You don't need a label slapped on you to deserve support.
I think that's important what you're saying, and that's the reason I want to speak to you on this episode, is because you're coming from different angles of being able to help people. Like you have a kind of a bridge between a scientific and spiritual approach that I think is really, really, important and, holistic in a way. I think there's not just, one size fits all for all issues. So I think having at least a holistic approach to, these issues is quite important. And I think that's why it's very, very important to speak to you on this episode. Do you think, from everything that you have experienced personally as well, do you think there's still certain things that you need or want to work on for yourself to just still get through certain issues, whether it has to do, I don't know, with forgiveness, or what has to do with connection, or I don't know, I'm just throwing things out there, but are there still certain things that you personally are like, okay, I've gone through all this, my life's been like this, I've come out really well in certain ways in these aspects, but I'm still working on this for myself?
Oh yeah, and I think what really helped me when I started working with my own life coaches and working with like spiritual mentors, what really shifted for me is that I started to understand that this work is life work. There's never going to come a point where like, I've ascended the mountain and I'm there. I don't have to do work anymore. It's not, no, this is life work. This is forever work. And that's okay. I dip into it. I do my work. I can take a break. And when I feel called and I feel ready, I'm going to follow that intuitive nudge and that guidance. And I'll go back and do the work at a deeper level as it comes up and as I'm ready to do it. You know, we're not, the day you plant the seed is not the day you pick the fruit. And I think it's important that we don't rush growth.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Out of curiosity, what for you personally, what does it mean being happy for you?
Ooh, unpopular opinion today.
That's all right.
Happiness. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Safe place. I appreciate you for that. I don't want to say happiness is an illusion because it's not. It's very real. It's very valid. But I think happiness, like all of our feelings, will come and go. You know, like it's like I think of feelings like a revolving door. They're going to come and go. You know, they're not going to be with us forever. They're just, some will visit us often and some will visit us from time to time. And all of that is okay. I think for me, it's really about, instead, I'm just going to replace the word happiness with the word satisfaction.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, I really do feel like I have a satisfying life. You know, like my career is in a good place. I mean, there are very few areas where I feel dissatisfied. I'll say it like that. You know, I'm meeting more and more people who are my tribe. I think you're part of that. Even though we're new to each other, you know, it's, I feel like we have a good connection. And it's just more and more people are entering, and I've noticed this shift, especially over the past year. It's like everything has leveled up in some way, shape, or form.
That's good.
And I never thought that was possible.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And, you know, I mean, I'm sure you know more than most, obviously, that in the sense that, you know, your sort of vibrational energy can really attract certain things in your life as well when you least expect it, you know, and on its own time in a certain way. So I think, you know, however your state of being is too can really determine that, but without forcing it, you know, of course, it just has to, in a way, be in its own natural way and come in its own natural time. But let's say I'm someone who wants to approach you then, Skye, like in whatever way, in person, virtual, whatever it may be, and I'm coming to you in a point in my life where I'm saying, hey, Skye, you know, my relationship with this person is like this. I feel they're dragging me down. I'm not happy. My career's about to change, or I've lost my job due to the pandemic, maybe. I don't know where I want to go or what I want to get into that would really make me feel satisfied. I want to start that thing I've never started before, and I want to take initiative now. You know, like if I come to you in a total state of flux and confusion, right, in many forms.
I have been there, so like complete empathy, complete understanding.
Yeah, you understand. No, so like if I come to you with all that, what, and you incorporate Reiki, you incorporate your training through life coaching, and you're a practice, let's say clinician, right, for mental health. So how do you approach me to set me on the right track? Like, how do we start?
Yeah. So, and the nice part with my therapy background is that even though you wouldn't be like a counseling client, even though we wouldn't be doing therapy, and I just want to make it very clear, like the life coaching piece is not therapy, but I would, if I felt like you needed it, I would be very transparent and say, you know, I think you need mental health services first, and then, you know, take care of your mental health first. The main point is, treatment's always going to be personalized and individualized. So it's really about, what do you need? Where are you at? Where do you want to go? And we can kind of sketch out a plan on how to get there. It's what in the therapy world, we would call that a treatment plan. And and a lot of life coaches have guidance plans or treatment plans as well. So it's really about helping us map out where you're at and where you want to be. And sometimes those goals can be, the nice part with life coaching is that they can be a little more abstract. Maybe one of your goals is to gain clarity. Cool. Okay, let's go.
And so you like have, what's interesting is then you really have like certain, let's say, skills in that way to understand, okay, this is more derivative of mental health issues, so let's just focus on that. Or it might be like, hey, I really want to get this thing going, let's do a life coaching strategy, or something, so you know how to kind of, in a sense, quote unquote, diagnose the right thing and then go that way, right? I'm interested to speak more on the Reiki level. Why Reiki? Why is that so important in the way you incorporate the way you help people? Because I understand in person myself, but let's speak to our audience and let them know, like, what is it about Reiki that can really kind of reset your state of being?
Back when I was doing my own therapy as a client, and I was, kind of searching for the spiritual pieces and kind of hitting those doors of like, well, because they weren't trained in the therapy realm, they couldn't help me. And that's okay. Like, I respected their boundary. But Reiki was kind of my first introduction to like the world of energy medicine and how, like, yes, you're in a physical, but we also have a body. And as I went to Reiki, it was like I also felt things internally shift. Like, I would come out feeling lighter or with more peace in my heart, or just overall feeling better, like a sense of relief, which at the time was its own godsend. And but I also got intuitive guidance, and that's where things like, like getting the pieces of information, like someday this would be my future, like someday it's going to happen, like someday, like, but that's also where I get like intuitive guidance. Hope was it's all part of the journey. And even though at the time it was very painful, and I want to acknowledge that, I don't want to discount that, it was also a way of knowing that this will serve in a more meaningful way in the future. And I just needed to kind of weather the storm. But it also helped me not feel so alone, because that's how I was able to connect to my guides and my spirit animal and, my grandmother's Cherokee. So
oh, really?
I hope that's not like cultural appropriation. That's a bit, yeah. So I'm like, she believed in that, and like it helped me connect to her, even though she passed away when I was a kid. Like it was my way of connecting to the part of me that the 3D world, that the physical world wasn't always very open to, say it like that. Yeah.
No, that could be an incredibly enlightening experience and really change your outlook on many, many things in life, if that comes to you, and it can be really absolutely powerful. And Skye, just to conclude on this amazing conversation, I thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us and really let our audience know, like an insight, especially into different ways in which they can get into different state in their life, a different situation, and just on a path that they truly are happy about, like that, or at least content, just at least take some initial steps, because I think sometimes we just get so stifled with even the first steps of anything, right? And that can just be such a deterrent into having anything flow whatsoever, and we don't want to be in that state. So just to conclude, what would you say to our audience on Spiritlift? Like, what is the one thing that they could really start today that would really help them level up their state of being, state of feeling, just to have a natural drive to move forward in life?
Start listening. If you're getting gut feelings, listen to those. I see countless people who are like, well, I want to, and then talk themselves right out of things that would make their heart sing. And it's like, obviously if it's hurting someone or yourself, don't do that, but use discernment. But I mean, if give yourself a chance, listen to your intuition, because you're always going to be your own best advocate. So listen to yourself. You know you better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's amazing. Like, I find it that, well, and I speak about this quite a bit, but like that we just don't, and I'm not saying this in a sort of egotistical or narcissistic way, but like we don't fall more in love with ourselves, right? Because, I mean, who better to get to know and understand who and what you are than you, right? I mean, we don't need to cling on to the outside world for every single thing. I mean, we can really just cherish what we are and who we are more than anything, and I'm trying to do that more and more. And I think it's quite an amazing journey and discovery to do that. So, Skye, I thank you so very much. Thank you so much for being a guest on this amazing episode. So important. Where can people, like, especially if on different parts of the world, if they're able to come across this episode, where can they connect with you and maybe go through anything you offer that can help them on their track in life? Where can they best connect with you?
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm very grateful we got to do this today. My Instagram is probably the easiest and fastest way to connect with me. It's I am Skye, Skye Lights, Lights.
Perfect. So we're going to make sure to include all Skye's information in the description, the show notes, the pinned comments everywhere, so you on all platforms, so you can connect with Skye when you have an opportunity and really, just see out all of what she does in greater depth and detail and connect with her for the right thing for you. And we thank you so much again, Skye. It was such an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much again. And we will see you all on the next episode. Take care, everyone.